Captain Lucas Hawthorne muttered under his breath as the control panel of the celestial Voyager flickered with red warning lights. One by one, the ship's systems began to fail. What was supposed to be a routine cargo run from the distant colonies had morphed into chaos in mere moments. He had been navigating the treacherous Tranquil Expanse, an area known for its unpredictable energy surges, when his vessel was caught in a violent wave of energy that sent him careening off course. Come on, he muttered, his hands dancing across the controls. The ship's sensors were rendered useless, scrambled by the tempest. Desperately, he reached for the communication systems, hoping to send out a distress signal before the Voyager plummeted into the atmosphere of an uncharted planet below. But no matter what he tried, the ship remained unresponsive, the atmospheric drag pulling him downward as the whole craft groaned in protest against the planet's gravitational grip. Lucas's heart raced as the viewport revealed glimpses of a verdant world, vast forests and sprawling mountains bathed in the golden light of twin suns hanging low in the sky. It was beautiful, yet he knew his chances of survival were slim. A jungle planet like this was notorious for its hidden perils. The ship's alarms blared louder, and just as Lucas braced himself, the Voyager hit the upper atmosphere. The impact jolted the vessel, throwing him violently against his harness, and he blacked out as the ship spiraled downward. When his senses returned, he blinked against the haze, gradually realizing he lay sprawled on soft ground, the scent of damp earth and lush greenery enveloping him. Groaning, he sat up, wincing at the sharp pain coursing through his ribs. His crash harness had saved his life, but his body was bruised and battered from the rough landing. The celestial Voyager lay crumpled nearby, smoke billowing from its damaged hull. By some miracle, it hadn't exploded on impact. He had survived, but repairing the ship and escaping this planet seemed like an impossible task. Lucas checked the emergency beacon strapped to his wrist. The display flickered with static. No signal. Whatever storm had brought him crashing down was still interfering with communications. He was stranded. Pulling himself to his feet, he surveyed the alien landscape around him. Towering trees stretched hundreds of feet into the sky, their thick trunks entwined with vines and bioluminescent flowers. Strange bird-like creatures flitted among the branches, and in the distance, a waterfall cascaded down a cliff, its roar muffled by the dense foliage. "Okay," Lucas murmured, trying to shake off the disorientation. "Find shelter, gather supplies." He began moving toward the wreckage of his ship to salvage what he could when the ground beneath him trembled. It was subtle at first, but the tremors grew stronger with each passing second. He froze, scanning the horizon, the trees swaying in the distance under the force of something massive approaching. The rumbling intensified, and Lucas's heart raced as he ducked behind a fallen tree trunk, peering through the branches. What he saw next defied belief. 3 women emerged from the thick jungle, each towering at least 20 feet tall. Their footsteps quaked the ground as they moved with a strange grace for beings of their size. They were stunningly beautiful, their features striking and ethereal. Their skin shimmered faintly, as if absorbing the sunlight filtering through the trees, and they wore clothing crafted from the hides of strange beasts, intricately woven with threads of gold and silver. Their long hair flowed like liquid metal, shimmering in hues of gold, silver, and copper. Their eyes were large and bright, filled with curiosity and intelligence. Despite their immense size, there was nothing brutish about them. They moved with the elegance of dancers, their bodies strong yet distinctly feminine. Lucas's breath caught in his throat. He had heard tales of colossal humanoid species in the outer reaches of the galaxy, but they were thought to be mere myths lost to time. Yet here they were, right in front of him, giants. The lead woman, slightly taller than the others, knelt down, her massive hands reaching toward the wreckage of the ship. Lucas watched, heart pounding, as her enormous fingers delicately inspected the crumpled hull. Her expression softened with recognition as she examined the ship's markings before turning her attention to the ground near where he had crash-landed. "I sense him," she said, her voice deep and resonant, vibrating through the air like distant thunder. He's close. Lucas's blood ran cold. He hadn't expected them to speak, much less in a language he understood. Before he could react, the giantess turned her head, her glowing blue eyes locking onto the very tree behind which he was hiding. With a swift movement, she rose to her full height and took a single step toward him, causing the earth to quake. "Come out, human," she called, her voice firm yet gentle. "We mean you no harm." Lucas swallowed hard, realizing he had no chance of outrunning them. He weighed his options: stay hidden and hope they moved on, or face them and trust they weren't hostile. Deciding he had no choice, he slowly stood and stepped out from behind the tree. The three giant women watched him intently, their eyes widening in what appeared to be surprise and relief. "It's true," the lead woman whispered, all lacing her voice. "Another one has come." The giantess knelt again, lowering herself to Lucas's level. Her gaze was soft, filled with a hope he hadn't expected. The other two women remained standing, their eyes fixed on him with a similar mix of curiosity and anticipation. "You are human," she said, her voice reverent. "You must come with us." "Come with you?" Lucas stammered, his voice barely steady. "Why? Who are you?" The woman extended her hand, palm up, an invitation rather than a command. Her hand alone was large enough for him to stand in. "We are the Daughters of Aeloria, the last of our kind, and you, human, may be our salvation." Before Lucas could protest, the giantess scooped him up with surprising gentleness. He found himself cradled in her hand as she rose to her full height. The view from her vantage point was staggering. He could see miles of jungle stretching in every direction. Yet his mind spun with the enormity of what had just happened. They were taking him somewhere, and he had no idea what awaited him. As they walked deeper into the forest, Lucas tried to ask questions, but the giantesses remained silent, their faces set in quiet determination. Soon they reached the edge of a massive clearing, and what lay beyond took his breath away. A village nestled among the towering trees came into view, but this was no ordinary village. The structures were colossal, built into the trunks and branches of immense trees, with walkways and bridges connecting the dwellings, all crafted from living wood and vines. It was an architectural marvel that blended seamlessly with nature, as if the forest itself had birthed these buildings. At the center of the village, surrounded by dozens of giant women, sat an even larger figure, a woman of regal bearing, taller and more majestic than the rest. Her eyes were sharp, filled with the wisdom of centuries, and she wore a crown of woven gold and silver branches. As Lucas was brought before her, she gazed down at him with a mixture of sorrow and hope. "You have come at last, human," she said, her voice rumbling through the clearing like a mountain shifting. "You are the one we have waited for. Our tribe is dying, and we have no more men. You must father our children." Lucas stood in stunned silence, his heart pounding. He had crash-landed on a world inhabited by beautiful giant women, and now they were asking him to save their species. The weight of their desperation hung heavy in the air like a dense fog. The leader of the tribe, the tallest and most regal of them all, sat on her throne of living wood, her golden crown gleaming in the soft sunlight filtering through the massive trees above. Her deep, penetrating eyes were fixed on him, filled with a sadness that seemed to run deep. "I know this is overwhelming," she said, her voice steady yet filled with ancient sorrow. "But we have waited for so long. You are the first human to set foot on this planet in many generations. Our legends spoke of your kindness, a man who could save us from extinction." Mark struggled to find his voice. "Save you? How? I don't understand what you're asking of me." The giantess rose from her throne with a grace that belied her immense size and motioned for Lucas to follow her. Despite his hesitation, he walked alongside her as she led him out of the central clearing and deeper into the village. As they moved through the settlement, he noticed more and more of the giant women watching him, their expressions a mix of curiosity and hope, some whispering among themselves as he passed. The buildings nestled in the trees, carved from living trunks, were like nothing Lucas had ever seen. They were elegant yet primal, as if nature itself had shaped them. Birds and strange alien creatures flitted through the branches, completely unafraid of the enormous beings below. Our people, the Daughters of Aeloria, were once a thriving civilization. The leaders spoke as they walked. We were scholars, artists, warriors, and leaders. We lived for centuries in balance with our world, the planet we call Aeloria, named after our first queen. They arrived at a large open space in the forest where towering stone statues stood in a circle. The figures were carved from black and white stone, worn by time but still majestic. They depicted men, giant men, as tall as the women who now ruled the land. Each statue was intricately detailed, exuding powerful, noble features and regal clothing. A chill ran down Lucas's spine as he realized these were not merely works of art, but monuments to a lost people. The giantess stopped before one of the statues, a towering figure with eyes that seemed to gaze into eternity. "These were our fathers, our brothers, our sons," she said, her voice tinged with sadness. "But they are gone, all of them." "What happened to them?" Lucas asked, his voice barely above a whisper. She turned to face him, her eyes filled with centuries of grief. "Long ago, our world was at peace, but we were not alone in this part of the galaxy. Another race, vicious, cruel beings from the distant stars, invaded Aeloria. They sought to claim our resources and brought war to our land. Our men fought bravely to defend us, wielding weapons of great power, using technology and strength beyond anything your human race can imagine." Her hand traced the stone surface of the statue, as if she could still feel the presence of the man it represented. But it was not enough. The invaders unleashed a weapon that specifically targeted our male population. The men fell one by one. It was a plague, a sickness that wiped them from existence while we, the women, were left untouched. Lucas's mind reeled at the enormity of her words. An entire civilization's male population erased by an alien plague, leaving only the women behind. He couldn't begin to fathom the scale of such a loss. "How did you survive?" he asked, his voice filled with awe and horror. "We adapted," she replied softly. "We became warriors, leaders, and protectors of our world. We drove the invaders from our lands, but the damage had already been done. Without our men, our population dwindled for generations. We sought a way to continue. We tried to reproduce through our own means, through ancient technologies and rituals, but nothing worked. The curse of infertility has plagued us for centuries." The weight of her words settled heavily on Lucas. He glanced up at the towering statue, its cold stone face staring down at him. It was clear now that these women were not asking for something trivial. They were asking him to help save an entire species from extinction. "But why me?" he asked, anxiety surging within him. "I'm just a pilot. I'm not special. What makes you think I can help?" The giantess turned to him, her eyes filled with a strange mixture of hope and certainty. "Our ancestors foretold that one day, a man from the stars would come, a man not of our blood, but of another world. Your kind, the humans, carry enough of our essence to spark life in our people once more. We believe that your genetic code, your vitality, can restore what we have lost." Lucas blinked, stunned. You think my DNA can save you?" Lucas stood frozen, grappling with the enormity of the situation. He had crash-landed on a distant planet, only to find himself thrust into the role of a savior for a race he had never known existed. The eyes of the giantess and the other Daughters of Aeloria bore into him, filled with a desperate hope that weighed heavily on his shoulders. "What you ask, it's a huge responsibility," he stammered, the reality of the moment crashing over him like a wave. "I don't know anything about your ways, your customs. I'm just a pilot." The giantess, her expression a blend of patience and determination, knelt down to his level again. "You may not feel special, Lucas, but you are unique. You are human, and that is enough. We need someone who can help revive our bloodline. You are a living connection to a future we desperately seek." "Revive your bloodline?" Lucas echoed, feeling the words twist in his stomach. "What does that mean, exactly?" "It means we want you to stay with us," she replied, her voice a soothing rumble. "To become one of us in a way. to help us restore our people. It will not be easy, but it is our only chance. Lucas shifted his weight, uncertainty coursing through him. He had come to Aeloria as a simple cargo pilot, not as a hero or a breeding stock for a lost civilization. "What happens if I refuse?" he asked, the question hanging in the air like a dark cloud. The giantess's eyes darkened, and she glanced away, her gaze falling on the towering statues surrounding them. "If you refuse, our tribe may fade away. We are few, and time is not on our side. Each passing year takes with it the last of our strength. The forest holds many secrets, but we cannot unlock them without your help." Lucas looked back at the statues, feeling the weight of their history. They had been men who fought bravely to protect their families, their homes. The thought of letting their legacy die made something stir deep within him, a sense of duty, an echo of bravery. "I need time to think," he said finally, holding up his hands in a gesture of pause. "This is overwhelming. I didn't come here for this." The giantess studied him for a moment, her expression shifting from desperation to understanding. "You are right to take your time. It is a heavy decision, but you must know that we cannot wait forever." She stood, towering above him once more, her figure silhouetted against the dappled sunlight filtering through the trees. "We have prepared a place for you, a sanctuary within our village. You may rest and contemplate your decision." Before he could protest, she turned and began walking toward the heart of the village. Lucas glanced back at the statues, their stoic expressions unchanging, and felt an odd sense of kinship with them. They had stood as guardians of a lost legacy. Now, he had the chance to become part of it. As they entered the village, Lucas was greeted by a vibrant community of giant women moving about with purpose. Some were engaged in weaving intricate fabrics from the fibers of the surrounding trees, while others tended to gardens overflowing with strange fruits and flowers that glowed with bioluminescence. The village thrummed with life, and Lucas couldn't help but marvel at the beauty of it all. The giantess led him to a massive tree at the center of the village, its trunk wider than a building and adorned with luminescent flowers that pulsed gently. "This will be your home," she said, gesturing toward a doorway carved into the trunk, large enough for her to walk through comfortably, but still daunting in its size. As he stepped inside, Lucas was amazed at how the interior had been shaped to provide warmth and comfort. The walls were lined with glowing vines, casting a soft, golden light. Pillows made of soft moss filled the corners, and the air was fragrant with the scent of sweet fruit and earth. "It's incredible," he breathed, turning around to take it all in. "You are welcome here, Lucas," the giantess said, her voice gentle. "Take your time to recover. We will prepare a feast in your honor tonight. It will be an opportunity for you to meet our people, to understand our culture and history. And perhaps you will find clarity in your heart." "Thank you," he replied, sincerity creeping into his voice. "I appreciate it." She nodded, a warm smile spreading across her face. "Rest, and know that your presence is already a blessing to us." With that, she turned and stepped back outside, leaving him in the cozy refuge. Once alone, Lucas took a deep breath, letting the surreal nature of his situation wash over him. He moved to the center of the room, sitting cross-legged on one of the mossy pillows. The walls felt alive, the gentle pulse of the vines soothing his frayed nerves. He closed his eyes, trying to process everything he had learned. The Daughters of Aeloria were fighting against the tide of extinction, and he held their future in his hands. It was a heavy burden, one he had never imagined shouldering. He thought of his own life, his family, his friends, the simple joys of a mundane existence in the vastness of space. Could he give all that up for a chance at something extraordinary? For a chance to save a dying race? After what felt like hours lost in thought, Lucas finally emerged from the haze of contemplation. He realized he needed to understand more about the women who were asking so much of him. Perhaps attending the feast would give him insight into their lives, their hopes, and their struggles. The sky outside was shifting into shades of pink and gold as the suns dipped lower. Lucas stood and straightened his shirt, taking one last look around his new home before stepping outside. The village was alive with activity as preparations for the feast were underway. Giant women moved gracefully through the village, their laughter ringing like bells in the air. Some were setting tables made from living wood, while others arranged colorful fruits and dishes that exuded tantalizing aromas. The entire atmosphere was one of celebration, as if they were preparing not just for a meal, but for a momentous occasion. As Lucas walked through the village, the giantesses paused in their tasks to regard him with friendly smiles, their curiosity evident. Some bowed their heads slightly in acknowledgement, while others waved their hands in welcome. He felt both small and profoundly special amidst their towering presence. Eventually, he arrived at the main gathering area, a sprawling platform woven high in the branches of an enormous tree. It was adorned with glowing flowers and surrounded by soft cushions, where the women gathered to enjoy their meal. The setting sun cast a warm, golden glow, bathing everything in light. The giantess from earlier, the leader of the tribe, sat at the head of the gathering. She gestured for Lucas to join her, and he climbed onto a cushion beside her, trying to mask his anxiety. The other women filled in around them, each one radiating warmth and camaraderie. "Welcome, Lucas," the leader said, her voice booming yet inviting. "Tonight, we celebrate your arrival and the hope you bring to our people." The feast began, and Lucas was amazed at the array of food laid out before him. There were fruits that sparkled like jewels, roasted dishes that smelled heavenly, and sweet drinks that shimmered in translucent vessels. As he took his first bite, flavors burst in his mouth, rich and vibrant, unlike anything he had ever tasted. As the meal progressed, Lucas found himself drawn into conversations with the women around him. They shared stories of their ancestors, of battles fought and victories won. Each tale was infused with a sense of reverence and pride, but also sorrow for the losses they had endured. He learned that they possessed an ancient knowledge of the forest, a deep understanding of the natural world that allowed them to thrive despite the destruction wrought upon their society. They had become guardians of their land, protectors of its secrets, yet they were also trapped in a cycle of diminishing hope. Throughout the evening, the leader continued to watch him closely, her gaze unwavering. Lucas could sense the weight of her expectations, the hope she placed in him. When the meal came to a close, she rose and motioned for silence. The chatter faded, and all eyes turned toward her. "Tonight, we have feasted not only to honor our guest, but to honor the potential for a new beginning," she said, her voice resonating through the crowd. "Lucas stands among us as a beacon of hope. We have much to learn from him, and he from us." The crowd erupted into cheers, a symphony of voices that echoed through the forest. Lucas felt his cheeks flush at the attention. It was exhilarating, yet overwhelming. "Tomorrow, I will show you our ways," the leader continued, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "You will learn our traditions, our history, and perhaps you will see the beauty of what we can build together." Lucas nodded, his heart racing. There was a strange exhilaration building within him, ignited by the possibility of something more than mere survival. Maybe he could help them in ways he had never imagined. As the festivities continued into the night, filled with laughter and stories, he found himself slowly drawn into their world, a world that had been crafted in resilience, beauty, and a longing for continuity. But as the last of the sunlight slipped away, casting the village in the soft glow of bioluminescent flowers, Lucas couldn't shake the feeling that a storm was brewing, both within him and beyond the trees. He had taken his first steps into a new life, but the challenges ahead loomed large, waiting to reveal their true nature. With a deep breath, he let the warmth of the celebration envelop him, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The next morning, Lucas awoke to the gentle rustling of leaves and the distant sound of cascading water. He sat up in his makeshift bed of soft moss, feeling the remnants of the previous night's festivities still buzzing within him. The warmth of camaraderie lingered, but a sense of urgency now filled the air, a reminder that he was a stranger in a land fraught with challenges. As he stepped outside, he was greeted by the vibrant morning light filtering through the towering trees. The village was alive with activity, Giantesses moved gracefully about, preparing for the day. Their laughter danced through the air, a melodic harmony that resonated with the forest. Lucas noticed the leader, Aeliana, standing at the edge of a clearing, her gaze focused on something in the distance. Curiosity drew him closer, and as he approached, he could see the outlines of ancient stone ruins peeking through the foliage. Aeliana, he called, his voice carrying through the tranquil morning. She turned, her expression softening as she acknowledged him. "Good morning, Lucas," she replied, her voice a rich timbre that seemed to resonate with the very earth beneath them. "Are you ready for today's journey?" "I think so," he answered, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. "What will we be doing?" She gestured toward the ruins. "Today, I will show you the heart of our history, the Temple of Elders. It is a sacred place where our ancestors once gathered, a site of immense power and knowledge." Intrigued, Lucas followed her deeper into the forest. As they walked, the trees seemed to close in around them, their trunks thick and ancient, covered in moss and luminescent fungi. The air was fragrant with the scent of blooming flowers, and the gentle sound of water nearby provided a soothing backdrop. "You will understand our past, and perhaps you will find answers to the questions weighing on your heart," Aeliana said, glancing at him with an encouraging smile. As they neared the ruins, Lucas felt a palpable energy in the air. The temple was majestic, its stone walls entwined with vines and flowers that glowed softly in the dappled sunlight. Intricate carvings adorned the structure, depicting scenes of giant women and men, hand in hand, celebrating life and unity. Aeliana led him inside, and Lucas felt a chill run down his spine. The air was cool and still, as if the very essence of the place held its breath. Inside, shafts of light pierced through the gaps in the stone, illuminating the carvings with a warm glow. "This is where our people would come to seek wisdom," Aeliana explained, her voice echoing gently in the spacious chamber. "Here, the elders would gather to share their knowledge, to connect with the spirits of our ancestors." Lucas stepped closer to one of the carvings, running his fingers over the cool stone. "What happened to your elders?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Aeliana's expression darkened, and she stepped beside him. "When the invaders came, they sought to destroy not just our men, but our very culture. Many of our elders perished, and with them, our wisdom faded. This temple stands as a reminder of what we have lost." Lucas felt a deep sense of sorrow wash over him. He understood now that the Daughters of Aeloria were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting to reclaim their identity, their heritage. Aeliana turned to him, her expression fierce yet hopeful. "We have survived against all odds, but we need your help to rebuild. You represent a chance for us to connect with the past and forge a new future." "I want to help," Lucas replied, feeling a sense of determination rising within him. "But I'm still trying to grasp what that means. What exactly do you need from me?" "We believe that by uniting our bloodlines, we can restore the balance and vitality of our people. But it goes beyond that," she said, her eyes shimmering with emotion. "We must revive the traditions of our ancestors. The stories, the teachings, they must not die with us. Your presence here can spark that revival." Lucas absorbed her words, understanding the weight of what she was asking. This was not just about survival. It was about revival and connection. "I'll do my best," he said, his voice steady. "But I have so much to learn." Aeliana smiled, her confidence in him evident. "We will teach you our ways. Let's begin with the stories." She gestured for him to follow her deeper into the temple. They found a secluded area at the back, where the walls were adorned with murals depicting tales of heroism, love, and unity. Aeliana began to recount the legends of their people, stories of brave warriors, wise leaders, and the deep bond between the Daughters of Aeloria and the men who once stood by their side. Lucas listened intently, captivated by the narratives that unfolded before him. Each story was rich with emotion, revealing the struggles and triumphs of a civilization that had endured centuries of adversity. As the sun rose higher in the sky, they emerged from the temple, and Lucas felt a newfound sense of purpose swelling within him. He He wanted to be a part of this history, to help them reclaim their legacy. "Thank you for sharing your stories," Lucas said, feeling a connection to Aeliana that transcended their physical differences. "I feel like I'm beginning to understand what it means to be part of your world." Aeliana nodded, her expression one of pride. "And in time, you will see how vital your role is in our future." Just then, the ground beneath them trembled slightly, a subtle reminder that the forest was alive and ever-changing. Lucas exchanged a glance with Aeliana, both of them sensing that the peace they had felt was perhaps an illusion. "We should return to the village," Aeliana said, her tone shifting to one of urgency. "There are things we must discuss." As they made their way back, Lucas noticed the forest growing quieter, the birds that had chirped so freely now silent. An uneasy feeling settled in his stomach, and he could sense Aeliana's tension as well. When they arrived at the village, they found the atmosphere charged with anxiety. The other giantesses were gathered in a huddle, their faces etched with concern. "What's happening?" Aeliana asked, her voice cutting through the murmurs. A woman stepped forward, her expression grave. "There are signs of movement at the edge of the forest. Something is approaching." Lucas felt a chill run down his spine. "What kind of movement?" The woman hesitated, then continued. "We believe it may be remnants of the invaders, or perhaps creatures of the forest drawn to our presence. Either way, we must prepare." Aeliana's gaze hardened, determination flickering in her eyes. "Gather everyone. We will not let fear dictate our actions. If they come for us, we will stand united." Lucas's heart raced. He had arrived in this world only to become embroiled in its conflict. The stories of bravery and resilience echoed in his mind, and he felt a stirring within him. He would not shy away from this challenge. As the giantesses rallied together, Lucas stepped forward. "What can I do to help?" he asked, his voice steady. Aeliana looked at him, a hint of surprise in her expression. "You would stand with us?" "Absolutely," Lucas replied, feeling the weight of the moment settle over him. "I may not be as powerful as you, but I won't let you face this alone." "Very well," Aeliana said, her gaze filled with gratitude. "We will need every hand we can get. Follow me, and I will show you how to prepare for whatever may come." Together, they moved through the village, gathering supplies, fortifying their defenses, and preparing for the unknown. As Lucas worked alongside the Daughters of Aeloria, he felt a growing sense of belonging, a connection to a cause greater than himself. The forest was alive with anticipation, the whispers of the trees merging with the resolve of the women who had welcomed him into their world. Whatever lay ahead, Lucas knew he was ready to face it, alongside the Daughters of Aeloria, as they fought to reclaim their future.